Hey guys, welcome on into the next NHL season preview show. And today we're going to be talking all about the Pittsburgh Penguins, looking at their offseason additions and subtractions, upcoming free agents, possible opening night lineup, team future bets, and player future bets for this upcoming season. And to talk about the Penguins, I brought in Harrison, who came on last year's show to talk of the Penguins. Brought you back again this year, but for people that haven't seen you before, maybe give people a brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks again for having me on for a second season in a row. I'm honored. So I am the co-founder of the Empty Betters podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Empty Betters. Myself and my two friends, Nick and Mac, run that. We've been doing that show for about 6 seasons now. So I'm the co-founder and host of that. Also a diehard Penguins fan. It was good for a long run there, but the last few seasons it's been a little disappointing. But I do like to bet on the NHL. Last season I did not do well, so full transparency, probably going to do a lower volume of picks this year. But you can follow me on Twitter if you're interested for Penguins news or for any bets I have at hsholes17.
Perfect. His Twitter, Harrison's Twitter link will be in the description below. And don't feel bad about last year. I didn't have a good NHL season last year. A lot of people really struggled last year in the NHL. So hoping it's just kind of a 1 year thing and things are going to get better this year. So
Here's open.
I'm excited. Also, Harrison and Empty Betters have been doing a lot of NHL preview shows themselves. So if you want even more NHL preview, team preview content, make sure to go see their podcast. We're going to jump into it right off the bat, additions and subtractions, and quite a big list here overall, both on the additions and subtractions side. I'll start with subtractions as I always do. Jeff Carter retiring, of course, getting up there in age. It's about time for him to retire and move on. Riley Smith getting traded. Pierre Oliver Joseph leaving. Vinny Hinostroza, Jansen Harkins, and then the prospect trade that we had more recently, which was a big surprise, I guess you could say, that it was a one for one type deal in that. So we're going to see Rucker McGorty from all that I'm reading. We're going to see him make the opening night lineup. So that'll be really interesting for the Penguins. Overall, on the subtraction list, I'm a fan of Riley Smith, but when you look at the list of guys that have left, really they're all replaceable. They're all replaceable guys. Addition side, Kevin Hayes coming in here by trade. Some depth guys in Lazat, Hollowell, Beauvillier coming over after a rough season last year. Grizzlick and Sebastian Aho coming in here to bolster the defense. And then the two moves that I really like, Cody Glass. I really like that trade for the Penguins to pretty much get him for free. And I really liked that trade there. Rector McGorty, um, as I said, should be making his season debut on opening night for the Penguins. And a team like the Pittsburgh that is getting older, you really want guys like Cody Glass and Rucker McGorty playing. So I like both of those trades. Nikolai Kizov is on a tryout, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But overall, additions and subtractions, I think the Penguins got better overall. How much better? That's remains to be seen. Harrison, additions, subtractions. What do you think about these two lists here?
I think you said it best. I think they got better. The question is, how much better did they get? I would say they're marginally better. I 1000% agree. Injecting some youth into that lineup and McGroarty and Glass is good. McGroarty seems more like a surefire, okay, this guy can play. He's ready to go. Cody Glass has had his struggles. We all know that, especially in Nashville, but I'm hoping that he can find his way in Pittsburgh. This team has a few. I shouldn't say a few. They actually have a lot of players who, if they can hit their ceiling, they could maybe make a run for making the playoffs. Who knows? Bavillier and Lazat, those are two guys who are probably going to be in our bottom six, but I think they both skate pretty well. Something that the Penguins' bottom six last year didn't do well. So, all in all, I think Dubas did a pretty good job at not forfeiting the season, but also still getting younger at the same time.
Awesome. I totally agree. And yeah, subtractions list, a lot of those guys kind of replaceable.
Yeah.
But moving on, coming for agents, and we'll start with you for this segment here, Harrison. Who is the most important guys for, in your opinion, for the Penguins to resign, and who could they go let go elsewhere? Sidney Crosby was on this list a few days ago, but now he's gone. So obviously that would have probably been your choice for most important to resign. But now that he's gone on this list, what do you think about the upcoming free agents for the Penguins this year?
Marcus Pettersson is definitely going to be my vote for most important here. He had a phenomenal season last year, even with a struggling defense. Good partner for Eric Carlson. He's really flourished ever since he came over to Pittsburgh, particularly in the last 2 years. He's going to get a nice little payday. I'm hoping it's with us. He can get the raise and stay in Pittsburgh. I'm sure he can fetch a decent sized number on the open market, but from what I've been reading on some of the writers for the Penguins, once the Crosby deal was done, the next priority is going to be Pettersson. So I would definitely keep an eye out on some of the rumors that are coming out between now and maybe the start of the season or the end of the year. We'll see.
Awesome. I won't be surprised if Pedersen gets signed before the show airs, because we're filming it a few days in advance, and there's been definitely been times that kind of stuff's happened, which is
Yeah,
kind of funny. But
that's how it always works.
yeah, for me here, Cody Glass still an RFA, so obviously you're going to want to try to bring him back, even maybe depending how this year goes. I would assume maybe a 1 to 3 year contract extension for him. Drew O'Connor is kind of interesting. I think the Penguins should take a look at re-signing him, and then Pettersson, like you said. Don't know much about Ryan Shea, but
Newer guy,
maybe he's a bit younger guy.
younger guy, a little bit of some bottom pairing minutes last year, but like you said, Drew O'Connor definitely also one to keep an eye out for. This is kind of a make it or break it season for him. He's got glimpses of some hope. He's always been a good skater. He's physical, but I think they're looking for him to put more damage on the score sheet this season. So we'll see what we can get from him.
Awesome. And that'll move us on to the next segment. And if they are trying to get him to do some more offense, if he is on the top line with Crosby and Russ, then I think that's definitely going to happen for him. Of course, this possible lineup is made looking at a depth chart. So no angry comments on the YouTube channel about this. It's just a possible lineup, and based on what a depth chart told me. Um, I like the top six: O'Connor, Crosby, and Rust. Of course, Crosby and Brian Rust have such a great chemistry together. It makes sense to keep those guys together. Bunting, Malkin, and Raquel in that second line. It's not that I have anything against it, but maybe I'd like to see maybe McGroarty get a chance in that second line at times. Maybe Cody Glass as well if he's playing well. But when you look at the top three lines as a whole, it's pretty good offense. I don't really think offense should be the issue with the Pens here. That fourth line, Kevin Hayes, Lazat, and Achari, is an interesting one. Of course, you've got guys like Bavillier and Valtteri Puustinen that could come in as well. Matt Nieto is injured, so he won't be making the opening night lineup. But Bavillier and Puustinen, I think, are two guys that could make the lineup as well. So really, the Penguins have some options when it comes to forwards. Most likely, that fourth line might move around a lot, depending on how guys are playing on a night-to-night basis. Looking at the defense, Pedersen and Carlson, Graves and Letang, Grizzlick and Aho. I think that's where some of the issues lie here for the Penguins. Carlson's getting up there in age, still can provide offense, but defensively is just rough. Letang also starting to get up there in age as well. Hopefully for the Penguins to make the playoffs, really they need Crosby, Malkin, Carlson, Letang all to stay healthy. Brian Rust to stay healthy. This Penguins team needs their core to stay healthy. I think to have a chance at the playoffs. And the goaltenders right now, Nedeljkovic is listed as the starter when it comes to depth charts. Obviously, I'm assuming it would be Tristan Jarry's job out of the gate, but I don't think if Jari struggles and Nedeljkovic plays well, I don't think it's set in stone that this is Jari's job. I think we could see equal split here when it comes to goaltending. But yeah, overall, I like the Penguins' offensive group, but the defense and goaltending, I think there's question marks here. Harrison, possible lineup for opening night. What are your thoughts here?
We'll start with defense. I like what you said about the defense. So, with Jeff Carter now not on the team anymore, I would say what's the I'm trying to think of the word, but the guy that everyone's going to pick on is going to be Ryan Graves. He had a pretty horrible first year with the Penguins, and he got a pretty juicy contract from Kyle Dubas. So he's going to be under a microscope. If he can play up to or even like 70% of what he's capable of doing, that would be a huge help on the back end, especially as Letang's getting older, like you said. I don't have too many concerns about Carlson or Pedersen. Obviously, you got to keep Carlson healthy. We know that there's been some injury bugs there over the course of his career. The bottom pairing, I think, is fine. I know Bruins fans kind of gave Grizzlick a little bit of a rough ride last season. Maybe not his best outing, but hopefully he can find his way back here in Pittsburgh. And I like Aho there too. Don't mind that. I'll do goalie second. I saw this when I was reading a Penguins preview from a different website earlier today, and I can't remember what the save percentage was, but the league average save percentage, I want to say it was like 903. Both Penguins goalies end the season at 903. The most average goaltending that you can possibly have is what they got last year. One of these guys, hopefully it would be Jari, given the money we're paying him, is going to put the foot down and say, okay, I'm the number one. There's no more goalie controversy. We all know Nedeljkovic got all the starts towards the end of the season last year while they were making their playoff push. But we really need Jari to step up. There were some trade rumors over the summer. I wouldn't have been against it if they moved on from him. Injuries have always been a problem for him, but when he's on, I would say he's a pretty good goalie. He's one that can take you into the playoffs, maybe win you a round. So let's see what we get from him this year. I have a feeling if he isn't up to snuff, maybe there's more trade rumors that come out near the deadline or going into next offseason. And then the forwards, I like what I see. And I know that might be a tiny bit biased, but I like what I see. I think the top nine is respectable. I think even with like Blake Lizotte or Bavillier, as you said, these are just projected lines. They're not official, but those two guys can maybe find their way into some top 6 minutes. I know Bavillier in camp right now has been playing with Crosby and Rust, and he's looked decent, so that's good. Those guys can skate. They're both really good skaters. But one guy who I'm going to pick on, because I don't think he had a very good year last year, is Rickard Rakell. Only 15 goals, and I think he went like the first 2 months of the season without scoring a goal. It was something crazy like that. So all those goals were in the back half of the season. If he could get somewhere between 22 to 28 goals, that would be pretty solid for the Penguins. That would help Malkin out a lot. I know he doesn't get the power play minutes, but I'm looking for him to have a bounce back year this year.
Great. And no, you're not. It's not being biased because I like the Ford Group as well. So definitely not a biased opinion there. I think there's a lot of potential. Um, if everyone can hit their ceiling, as you said, it could be a good season
Yeah.
for the Penguins. And that's a perfect segue into our next segment here, which is Team Future Bets. Taking a look at the odds here for the Penguins, who had 88 points last year, 38, 32, and 12, missing out of a playoff spot by 3 points. So not a not too far down, only 3 points out of a playoff spot. And now their point total is 90 and a half. So it looks like books expect a little bit of an increase here, a couple points overall in the season. Make playoffs is plus 120. Um, for me here with this list, I don't have any bets here on the Penguins. Um, they're a team that I could see doing well, like I said, if everything goes right, but there's just too many question marks for me to pull the trigger on this team for this season. If I was betting something on this list and I thought the Penguins were going to have a good season, I'd be going with the playoffs at plus 120. Just 90 and a half points. If they're going to hit 91 points, they're most likely going to make the playoffs. So I'd rather take the plus money. I don't think they're in the running for least points in the NHL. And I don't think they're really in the running for any of the top four bets. So, really, on this list for me, it would be yes, playoffs or pass. Harrison, team future bets for the Penguins. What do you think?
So I'm in the same boat as you, and I love this team, so that should say something. But they are a tough one to predict. They are a bubble team again this year. Whether they get in or not is kind of a coin flip, in my opinion. They're going to be competing with some of those wild card teams from the Atlantic. You know, maybe the Ottawas, maybe Montreal's, the Detroits, the Buffaloes, those kind of guys. And then they're probably going to have to surpass the Capitals or the Islanders from the Metro. So those are all teams that are good teams and are a lot younger than us too, for the most part. So I don't have one myself. If I were to bet, I might go over 90 and a half because I think that wild card bubble is going to be really tight. So I could see a world where maybe they get 91, 92, but still somehow miss. I know you like the plus money and I do too, but I don't know. I can't confidently say that I think they're a playoff team. I think they're going to be a fringe team. I think they're going to put up a good fight, but I think we're going to get a pretty similar story than that we did last year.
Yeah, and just looking at it from if that is the case, um, this Penguins team, you don't want to be stuck in that just missing the playoffs type situation that the Wild were in for a long time, and they're still kind of in missing the playoffs last year. But you really like. Obviously, there's nothing you can do while Crosby's still here. This team's going to be competitive. So, looking at it, if the Penguins aren't headed for a rebuild, and it might be a rough time once the rebuild finally does come, I think, for the Penguins. But like you said at the beginning of the show, you've got to see some Stanley Cups. So that's what you got to remember in the future seasons when things are a bit rough. Looking at player future bets here for the Penguins, Sidney Crosby, back to back 82 game played seasons, which is great for him. 93 points in 22 23, 94 last year. So if he plays another full season, I like him to continue on getting into the 90-point range in somewhere in the 90s. I don't think his play has fell off in recent years. So I would lean with the over. 33 and a half goals, 42 last season, 33 the season before that. And then 21-22, when he only played 69 games, he had 31. So he's been a 30 goal scorer the last three seasons. But no play for me with Crosby there. Brian Rust, he had 28 goals last year in 62 games played, 20 the season before that in 81 games played, 56 points last year in 62 games played, and 46 points the season before in 81. So despite playing in 19 games fewer this last year, he increased his goal total and point total despite playing in less games. So really, Brian Rust had a great season, 56 points in 62 games. I think Penguins fans would be happy with that. Almost a point per game player. The issue though here is, 62 games last year, 81 and 22-23, but he's never played a full season. Now there was the COVID season, 56 games played, so technically I guess he played a full season that year, but when you look at it and you want to bet player future bets for a player, you really want a guy that's gonna stay healthy. And if Russ stays healthy, I like both of these over. I really do. It's just, is he going to stay healthy or not? Malkin, like Crosby, back-to-back years, 82 games played. Kind of a drop-off last year. He had 27 goals in both years. So he's been hitting 27. His total's at 24 and a half. But the point total went from 83 down to 67 last year. 16 fewer assists for him last year. So the point total dropped a bit. Still hit over 64 and a half. So I don't want to be negative, but Malkin could be one of those players that might be starting to decline a little bit. Obviously, being on that second line doesn't help either. So really, I don't have any plays there. Chris Letang, his point prop is at 45 and a half here. 51 points last season, 41 the season before that, 68 the season before that, and then he was in the 40s and the 50s. So he's really been around in the 40-point range, 40, 50, 60-point range. And that was with missing games every season. Last year he played in 82, 51 points. So again, with Letang, it kind of depends on his health. And obviously, he is on the second line, so that with Carlson on the top line, so that doesn't really help when you're looking at a point total. And then Tristan Jarry, 19 wins last year, 24 the season before that, 34 the season before that, and 25 the season before that. So he has been hitting his win total except for last year. So if you like Jari to bounce back from last year, then you want to take the over, if not the under. And then to pick an award of some kind here, I put in Sullivan Jack Adams. Now I know probably not going to happen, but if this Penguins team somehow did have a great season, came in the top two in the division, just had a phenomenal season, I could see Sullivan getting some votes with the fact that this team is projected to be outside of the playoffs. So I think if they have a very good season, I think he could get some votes. But really on this list, it's Brian Rust points and goals if he can stay healthy, and I'm just not sure he can. So no play for me, but there's some interesting bets here. Harrison, player future bets for the Penguins. Who do you think is going to have a good season this year?
Who do I think is going to have a good season? So on this list, there's one thing I'll say, and if you're a Penguins fan, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This is kind of getting into the weeds, but they had one of the worst power plays in the league last year, and that really hurt a lot of the players' productions. It's amazing that Crosby did what he did, but the power play so bad. They got rid of Todd Reardon, the assistant coach who was running the power play. They bring in Coach Quinn from the Sharks, David Quinn, I believe. I always get him and Dan Quinn mixed up. I think that's the NFL, but David Quinn comes over, Mike Sullivan's friend. So he's going to be manning the power play this year. I think if the power play is respectable, I'm saying, upper half of the league, maybe they get the 12th to 15th ranked power play. I think there's a good amount of these that could hit. I think Malkin could hit over on his points if the power play is good, but I would tend to agree with you. I think if Rust is healthy, I love that 58.5 points. Letang, I might be a weird take for me to say, but given Carlson getting all the power play minutes these days, he might go under. I think some of that data from the past few seasons was when he was still quarterback in the power play last season. It was pretty clear that they're giving the reins to Carlson. So maybe under on Letang. I'll give you one that's not on the list. I bet you Ricard Raquel's goal total is pretty low, and he's my guy where I think if we're going to make a difference this year, he's got to bounce back. So I that's a pretty specific player. There might not be a book with that, but I think Ricard Raquel could have a decent season. But off this list, I'd agree with you. I'd probably go Rust.
All right. Yeah, let me check. Did I forget him or no? He's not
No.
listed.
Yeah, he's probably not listed.
Of course, that's on DraftKings, the book I used. It's possible he could be on a different book, so definitely look around. But I use DraftKings to make all these bets here.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's the Penguins preview show. Harrison, anything else you want to say about the Penguins before we finish off?
I think they're going to be actually a fun team to watch this year. I think that they're going to put up some more goals. I also think they're going to let up a decent amount of goals. But I think they're going to be fun to watch. I'm hoping they make playoffs. I don't think plus 120, like you mentioned earlier, is a bad bet, but I'll be watching the whole way, and I'm excited to see what McGroarty's going to do with us this season.
I like it. And hey, if they're going to be an over team, that's great because I'm going to be really getting into the player props this season. So over teams are going to be teams that I like because I'll be really focusing on the player props this year a lot more than last year. But make sure to go give Harrison a follow. His Twitter link is in the description below. And thanks for watching, guys. And we will see you on the next NHL season preview show. Thanks for watching.